Welcome to When Will It End? I'm Josh.
I'm Charles.
I'm Charles.
Sorry,
Josh. Okay. And hi. When Will It End? Time. The Death Cure. Number 3. Hi. It's When Will It End? I'm Josh.
I'm Charles.
And if one of us had blood death cure, it's probably you because you're vegan now.
If I had the cure or the
If one
problem?
of us has death cure in our blood, like Tom.
Oh yeah, I'm better than everyone now.
You're better than everyone now. You're vegan. It's your
How does
blood
it feel?
when you bleed, and this is true. It shines like a rainbow.
Well,
the
more
blood
like
says-
more like the red part of the rainbow.
There's no cruelty in me. Whistles
Yeah.
your blood.
You know how that feels. How does it feel
I used
to
to.
have left that life?
Remember Prince Charming in Shrek the Third?
Mm-hmm.
He's just like a washout in the alleyways
yeah.
of Wonderland or whatever, looking up at the castle.
It's bleak
That's what I feel like.
right now.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Maze Runner series is over.
Well, 1, I quit veganism, and 2, the Maze Runner series is over. And wow, we have so much to talk about. We made it to the
Yeah.
end of another series.
It's always so
By
surprising.
the skin of our teeth. Yeah. Watching this, I was like, is this really the last one? We really did it.
We did it. We always do it. I guess that's the thing about watching movies. It's pretty easy to do.
Right, but at the same time, you still find things to complain about. That's the funny.
Me or everyone?
Everyone.
Yeah.
We're like, I could have been more comfortable. This movie could be better.
Yeah.
It's like you're sitting and watching something.
What I've come to appreciate is like, I used to be just like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, where like you'd sit down with your friends, like The Matrix, and watch like multiple movies in a row.
They're kind of our modern mythos.
Sure. But I really like one thing about this podcast
What at?
is that now I'm doing it with Shrek, Austin Powers,
The Maze
the
Runner
Maze
trilogy.
Runners. And it's like, this is actually a really fun way to engage with a story.
Well, I think like if there's any message to this asinine podcast, it's that if you really take this stuff seriously and engage with it, there are sometimes great rewards for taking these seemingly silly or lightweight things very seriously. And I have to say, I want to go ahead and just right off the bat say this was the best series we've watched so far.
Oh, absolutely.
And we just experienced Maze Runner: The Death Cure. And of course, this is a podcast where we watch whole movie series. We find out what works about them, what doesn't work. Can you sustain a world that you've created? Does it get better? Does it get worse? And I think this is the first time we can say unambiguously this series works.
Yeah, and I'm actually I wasn't asking when will it end, but I'm not asking for more. Like this is the end. We're going to talk about the whole movie, but just to sort of give my pre-thoughts, my thoughts, but in a pre-way.
Pre-thoughts are like pre-com. It's not exactly the same thing, but it still could impregnate somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do want to be careful. This might set your mind a-flowing.
They should probably call it Also Come, honestly. If you think
this
about it,
is
it's
still-
essentially still a something you need to worry about.
Also come.
Right. Okay,
I think pre-come's better.
I think
because
it's
it
a
still
better,
says come. No.
it's a better phrase.
Wait,
but
is there
I
another
think,
pre? Like,
I
what's
think-
another pre? Give me a pre.
Well, I mean, anti-cum?
No. I'm saying like, does the
antechamber.
prefix...
No, like antechamber. A-N-T-E.
Right, before.
Anti-cum.
So antechamber is not a chamber, it's the thing before the chamber.
Exactly.
I think you're right.
It's like a vestibule, but inside.
And especially if we called it anti-cum, people would probably, because people are dumb, confuse it with anti-cum,
Let me
which
clarify.
would be the opposite of cum.
I want to just
What
reiterate.
is the opposite of cum?
I know that vestibules are inside, but I mean, like it's like an exterior room into a home.
It's like a mud room.
I don't want people to think that I think a vestibule is just out in the open. I know it's inside.
Yeah, it's walled. It's fully walled.
It's fully walled. It's just like on the exterior of a home.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I know that. I know you, but take that time.
Okay. Anti-cum, pre-thoughts, go.
Okay. It worked. The whole thing worked.
The whole thing
I
worked.
don't need more. Like, this is a world that was created to do this thing. And it's sort of nice to exist in that space where, like, I know there's not going to be more. I know they're not now coming up with, like, well, they might, because there was that fucking loser Dashner did write 2 more books that sort of took place in the universe. But it's not like they're trying to come, what are they going to do now?
Well, no, but in a way, like, I want to get to the ending because I think we need to give it a little space to explain why it's so good. Because for a minute there, I was concerned they lost the thread, but the final shot, I was like, yep, that's what I needed.
I want to hear more of that.
Okay. Well, I want to just work our way
we'll
there.
get there.
First off, if you loved this series, and I'm talking massive panes of glass shattering.
Oh my God.
I'm talking Newt barricading doors.
Oh my God.
I'm talking Tom flipping off Littlefinger.
Can I talk? One?
Yeah, go
Not
ahead.
that you always let me talk.
I'm trying to be more giving.
No, you're a fucking amazing. You're a
No,
marvel.
you're amazing. You're
an
the
angel.
best. You're my favorite. You're like if God pre-cummed. If God anti-cummed, you would come out of it.
I'm loving that.
God's orifice.
Things falling and then watching them fall to their
Yes.
completion. That was like some of my favorite shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie ruled.
This was great. I think maybe of the three, it's the heaviest and at times a little bit like it gets a little bogged down in what's going on. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Like, this has earned it. It really has earned it. And I think what is amazing with this series, we touched on this in the last episode, this is all about moral ambiguity where no one is right. Some people are more wrong than other people, but everyone is essentially making choices for themselves by the end of the movie. Like Patricia Clarkson, the nefarious doctor, she's like, oh, we can't save him. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
And so the Littlefinger's like, well, we can save a few people. I'm going to try to save a few people.
The people that I like.
Right. And Tom and his friends are like, we're going to save Minho. And that's it.
Yeah.
And like, so no one, and then Teresa kind of emerges at the end of the movie as the only person who's deeply compromised moral decision to continue to participate in the torture and the testing. She is ultimately right. Tom is only right by virtue of Teresa redeeming him, by him trusting her at the end of the movie.
She was, I think, also doing things for her own reasons. And ultimately she was wrong because the cure wasn't about torture. It wasn't about putting kids through strenuous situations. It was about blind luck and a boy man who just happens to have been born with good blood. Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of it is that the solution that's hinted at in this, which is also cool, that they don't like do the thing like we've talked a lot about how like in Star Trek episode 3, there's the massive ocean of bad guys and they go bloop and they all go end of movie. And it's like, that is so lazy. And in this, God.
Well, you haven't even mentioned that they just play Beastie Boys. Like that was the main boop.
The best part of
it was a.
It's a pretty good Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie.
I'm not gonna claim to be all of them.
No Beastie Boys. It was sick. Okay, well, let's start from the top here. Okay,
I love. Can I just compliment your last episode?
Please don't.
What do you mean?
Why? We don't just self-congratulate ourselves.
Well, I'm feeling in a great mood.
Okay, good.
You're the angel that I long to be.
That's very kind of you.
I go on and on about bullshit, and you are so good at letting me do that, but then find a way to come back.
Okay. This movie, like the last movie, what I love about this is that the last movie, they're like, we've got to get Minho. This movie starts, they're fucking going to get Minho.
Yeah.
Everyone's hair is different, so you know it's in the future.
Mm-hmm. Great.
You said it was a 2-year lapse between this
6
movie?
months. Oh, movie time 6 months. But yes, there was a 2-year gap. And I don't know why you're asking me. I fucked it up last time.
It's true. Well, your version of math, I think, entertains everyone.
But I do remember that it was... No, I think it was 3 years because 2015 to 2018?
This came out last year?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that weird? I didn't even hear about it, really.
Well, this performed the worst of the three, unsurprisingly.
Sucks.
Well, I mean, I get that, like, it's really hard. We are series buffs at this point, I think we can say. We've watched a few series in our day. And I think you and I are people who are like, I guess it's funny we're talking about this in a post-Endgame world, which is the ultimate series finale. But, like, for, like, a pretty obscure, weird series, I do get this being a hard hook to maintain that audience.
Well, also, we did it in the best way, I think. I think this is one movie that was actually, it's not. It's really interesting because it is 3 very distinct settings, distinct visions, but I think the proper, like, I can't imagine waiting 3 years between 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. And again, the light touch exposition, that is a hindrance if you're really, like, going years apart.
Yeah. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We had honestly forgot what happened to Gally.
Oh, okay. Well, we didn't get to that. Fucking Gally's back.
As we predicted.
Is back.
We predicted that.
We predicted that.
We predicted Teresa's death.
I think that was a me thing.
No, I did.
I think it was me.
We can listen to the...
Well, let's go to something I was wrong about. Teresa, not Tommy's sister.
I mean, we still don't know.
We still don't know. Yeah.
That's the cool part of this is that we'll never know. I guess that you could just think you're right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's fine by me.
Let's just die with that.
Think you're right.
I am. There we go. Okay, so this movie's fucking sick. I loved it. It opens with a fucking train heist, which, if you know me, I love me a heist.
And I love me a train.
I love trains are great.
I love a future train.
Yeah, and this was, I would say, a pretty restrained future train.
Yeah, I hated Snowpiercer, and I wanted to love elements of it just because it was on a train.
Yeah,
but it sucked.
And you walked out of Solo, but there is a climactic train incident in that movie.
In Snowpiercer?
In Solo.
Oh yeah.
Solo has a
I
train
bailed.
heist.
I bailed there early. I should.
Solo's not so bad.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the end.
It's not so bad.
No, I mean I love a good train heist.
There's a great train heist. You're gonna have fun.
Train to Busan has a great train.
It better.
Yeah.
You put train in the title.
Train
fucking
shit.
better. Strangers on a Train. Great train in that. They meet on a train.
Well, that's a pretty boring one, to be honest.
I'll kill
train
your
shit-
wife if you kill my wife.
Hey, there's swap murders. There's a cool guy singing about a goat on a train in Strangers on a Train. Do you remember that guy?
I do. It's
He's
great.
a drunken old man.
Right.
I'm a goat. I like a goat. I'm a goat. Hear me, goat.
I think you're sort of doing Octopus's Garden or something.
Yeah, but about goats.
No, it's Yellow Submarine. Sorry.
Yeah.
You ever heard of the Beatles?
No, I'm
Oh.
starring in a new film called Tomorrowland.
That
Oh wait,
already
no,
came
I'm
out
sorry.
Yesterday.
The opposite.
Yesterday.
Did that come out?
It did come out. Yeah.
Oh, that's really fun. Tomorrowland came out yesterday.
Oh,
That's really
God.
fun
Okay.
to say.
So
I'm gonna see it today.
train heist. They try to rescue some of the immune from Wicked. They fuck up. They're trying to get Minho. They do it wrong. But we do get this sick sequence where, like, again, it's now sort of like it's transformed over time from like, it's now like a full on guerrilla insurrection movie where, like, I think the build up to this is really well earned because this is basically a drive to get to the core of Wicked's evil empire in this city surrounded by a wall. And they make a deal with the devil in the form of like fucked up looking deformed Walter Goggins and basically trigger the apocalypse, basically.
Yeah.
They basically they set off a chain of events that sort of ends the existence of whatever system they were once a part of. And I thought that was incredibly well done in a way that, like, all of the characters, good and bad, have these moments of reckoning we talked about earlier in the episode. And I thought that was like really well done.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's a good. Everything works from start to finish of this series. I really enjoyed the ways that we each get to see the characters as they stumble along and really fuck around and fuck up. I actually really respect Jansen
Yeah, Littlefinger.
because he does turn out to be like the closest thing we have to a bad guy, but he's got conviction and he knows what he's doing. And it's like totally believable that a man who's like seen the collapse of the world would really want to try to cure things to make a world that he wants because he has that control.
Right, like he's not inherently, his actions may be wrong, but his goal is not wrong. And I guess that's a classic philosophical debate, means justify the ends, etc. Obviously, child torture, not popular.
Yeah, but I mean, he's definitely given the role of the bad guy, and also like choosing the society you want to continue is not great.
That's true.
I mean, you would probably.
I would pick only the ballers among us. I'm talking
ballers
West
like Wes.
Ball. I'm talking Newt. Oh my God, Newt's fucking death. Newt dies, and it was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
That was amazing. There were two great reveals in this. And we find out that Newt is indeed not immune and is indeed dying. And then later, there's a little moment that was so good. Jansen reveals he too is dying of the disease.
In a very similar arm reveal.
Right, which is great.
There's a lot of similarities in this movie. There's lots of, we mentioned the glass, we mentioned all sorts of things, but there's lots of there's lots of Deus Ex Machina in this movie, but you don't really give a shit.
Right.
So many people just show up and save people just without real explanation of why they happen to be there at the right time. It's a lot of that, but I think it's good. Like in the tunnel. I
Yeah.
don't remember which, that was this one where they're driving
Yeah,
out,
which
the
is
car
sick.
flips
More
over.
zombie shit. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Fry Pan's driving.
Yep. No. Tommy's driving.
No, Fry Pan's driving.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I wasn't paying attention.
You sure weren't. No, but I think you're right. Like, I think
you're right.
In my mind, like everyone's suffered for so long in the series that, like, in my mind, I didn't mind the occasional narrative conveniences because
No.
it's so tortured.
Who gives a shit?
Right. I mean, yeah, again, it's also like you got to wrap this shit up at a certain point. I think, like,
Yeah.
for all the practicality and all the attention to detail, which still exists in this movie, sure, a lot of people come swooping in this, but, like, that's it is what it is. I'm not asking too many questions.
Yeah, there's something about us that we both noticed and like turned to each other when they flip the car and they have problems getting out of the car. And we both like noticed and we're like, oh yeah, it's so good.
Like they're really paying attention. Yeah, like they flip the car and they're like, shit, it's hard to get out of this fucking
yeah,
car.
they like try one door, it doesn't work, they go to the other door. It's like it's like a really interesting use of 10 seconds. And I loved it because it made it feel, even though 10 seconds later, they get randomly saved by two characters that weren't supposed to be there. The previous scene where they're like fumbling with technology and flipping cars is like, oh, this feels real. So then I will believe in the crazy shit.
Well, we've often talked about, and we're going to, don't hold your breaths. We've discussed a Harry Potter series at some point, but I think a common criticism of those movies is that there's so little of the detail of the books that leaves those movies at times feeling very convenient or rushed or lacking that texture. This series is incredibly textured, and you don't get this in a lot of things. Like if you watch a Transformers, you watch some of these other things, like things sort of fly by, and like we're just meant to not even give a shit to consider for a second how these little things, the little mechanics operate. And this movie, it takes that time, and it's really cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Like the disfigured nose man.
Walter Goggins is like playing through a mixture of, I'm sure, prosthetics and CGI is still fucking
Oh, no, they cut his face off.
They cut his nose off. He looks incredible in it. This movie does a few things that surprise the shit out of me. One of them is that, like, to understand the stakes of the movie, they do these little things like, so Walter Goggins, he like leads this like ragtag, like he's just like fucking hates the rich and powerful living in the big wicked city. And he's like, guys, it's time to take the city. I'm going to suicide car bomb this truck full of explosives into the gates. Let's go fucking end this.
Yeah.
And there's no indication prior to this that this is his plan. He's not some like horrible Machiavellian schemer. He's like, no, we're ending this.
Yeah, and they don't even really seem to care about taking over the city. They're
razing it to the ground.
Yeah. And it's cool because we were talking about this earlier. We predicted, or not predicted, we had hoped for a three-way battle between Wicked, zombies and
Resistance
the right arm.
General. Yeah.
And what we got instead was a two-way battle between a new faction that we don't really know anything about and Wicked, who we don't really like. And in the midst of that carnage, we have our main characters doing shit.
Who are mostly at this point pursuing their own goals.
And if you compare this, again, to a Star Wars. Let's compare this to a Star Wars.
Dude, we just talked
Shut
about not
up.
doing... You just said we didn't want to do this last time.
Fuck, I just wanted to compare it to a Star Wars.
That's all we've done.
I know, but I won't do it ever again.
Okay, fucking do it.
I promise.
Okay.
There you have...
I'm continuing under protest.
Okay, great. Go blow up a door, why don't you?
Okay.
All right. What is this? Oh, yeah. In a Star Wars, you have a ragtag group of heroes that we all love fighting against a giant group of evil, where you'd care if any single one of those people died, but you don't care about the bad guys dying. But you have this group of people that if any of them dies, you're like, fuck, that sucks. Like, Obi, you're not even gonna give me like a nod.
Well, what are we gonna do?
Anything? It's gonna give me anything.
Star Wars.
Well, anyway, Star Wars, just compare. Like here, you have this. You can allow for a huge amount of carnage and fighting and battling when you have two groups of people that you don't care about fighting, so you can watch what our heroes do in the midst of the chaos. I think I've never really seen that in a movie before. It's like a really cool idea to allow for a larger focus, because that's like my big complaint of Star Wars is that supposedly there's this huge battle going on, but we don't really get to see the scope of the issues. You really just see this tiny group of people, and here you get to see the big giant war going on amid, and then you have the little stuff going on in
I think what I'm trying to get here is that you feel like those battles lack a complexity.
Not even a complexity, just like you don't get a sense of scope. Like,
I think you get a pretty broad sense of scope in massive Star Wars space battles. That's the whole thing.
No, you get a scope of like 8 people either fighting in X-Wings or with lightsabers. Like it always feels like a group of 6 giant heroes fighting a war against 6 other giant heroes. To me.
Okay, well, I mean, there's massive battle scenes in those movies.
Right, but it's like, I don't know, I just don't feel like, it feels like the only people that are important are Luke Skywalker, Leia Skywalker, Darth Vader, and Han Solo. And like anything else, like I don't know who these people are, what they're fighting. Like it's just that doesn't feel like they spent any time developing the rest of the world, which is why Rogue One's so good, because they really like developed everybody, and you feel the sense of rebellion.
But I mean, it's not like we get to know anybody that intimately. I don't think this comparison has a lot of water to it.
Water?
Like I don't think it has like a lot of substance. Like we don't like know.
That's true. Water is quite substantial.
The goal of Walter Goggins people is not like that. We don't really get into. We barely understand their intentionality.
But you see the result of it.
I don't get the comparison.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
I called you an angel earlier. I just expected more.
I know, but we're like back in Star Wars.
I called you an
land.
angel. Yeah, you're just doing this because I'm talking about Star Wars.
Can we start over?
Shut up.
No, this is bad.
No, it's not.
Oh, God. I don't want to just talk, like, relitigate Star Wars.
I'm not even talking about the bad one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm just saying it was good, man.
It was like 10 minutes on Star Wars.
I was just saying it was good.
But I don't understand the comparison.
Because the comparison, we have a 3-movie series which like feels really lived in.
Yeah.
And like really developed from start to finish. We have a story where the world feels really big and like everything in it is important. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't get why like bringing in Star Wars to
I'm just saying that doesn't feel. It feels like we have our main points, and the rest of the world is nothing. Like we have these little points of interest, and the rest of the world doesn't feel like they gave a shit. You were saying like the little things that they paid attention to detail. They made the world.
Yeah, there's certainly a granular component to this that's impressive.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I was saying.
It's like a long old X-Wing ride around the globe. It's terrible.
Shut up. That's what I bring to this show. I bring a
sucking Sarlacc pit like void.
You're now the one talking about Star Wars.
You led us down this horrible road.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I hope I digest you for 1,000 years.
Well, unless I'm wearing my Mandalorian armor, that's no longer canon. No. So what I find fascinating with this movie is that where it lands at the end of the day is that essentially our heroes' choices are actually kind of shitty and self-serving in the sense that we're left with the immune going to their safe haven with a few, I guess, lucky hangers-on, basically. Mm-hmm. Like it's still sort of like this elect gets to like experience this safety. And it left me being like, man, if they just end it on this being the happy ending, I'm going to feel really uncomfortable because that's unearned. Like I don't really, at the end of the day, that almost validates Jansen's entire...
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what he wants to do, too.
Right. So the fact that this ends with Tommy acknowledging Teresa's sacrifice and acknowledging that she was right, ultimately, or at least her gesture was the key gesture.
Yeah.
And him I was praying for this shot. I don't know if you were too, but I was like, we have to see that fucking serum. And so with him standing on the shore, holding the serum, looking back from where they came, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
He's not done. And we don't have, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, yeah, I'm not asking when will it end. In a perfect world, if it was done extremely well, I would love to see where someone took the story further because it's a world that we feel really lived in.
I'd be scared.
I would definitely be very hesitant because while James Dashner might be a sexual criminal, he did ultimately create the foundation of a movie series I now love.
It's true.
But I love that Tommy is like, he's not satisfied. And he shouldn't be.
No.
And I think a lazier storytelling would be like, and they did it and escaped and it was good.
Like in Star Wars?
Like in Star Wars. But they don't do that in this.
Yeah.
I like that there's that, it's the door is left open there.
Right. But that's a good, I mean, you've been reading a lot of Penis Johnson.
The great Penis Johnson.
And I think he excels at, and what all good storytelling does is it doesn't bring you to an end. It brings you to somewhere where you can finish it.
Yeah, it should be a point of departure.
Right.
And again, the fact that like for a series that is aimed at teenagers or young people, there's a lot of choices in this that are really complicated. And again, left deliberately unsaid. Like the fact that like Tommy isn't satisfied with his ending, despite that being the most conventional possible ending to a series, that takes a lot of guts, and I think it takes a lot of vision.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen anything that like, certainly in what we've watched so far, nothing comes close to this level of like emotional or moral or intellectual complexity.
No, I think Hunger Games eventually gets there. Just a much longer series.
Is that 7 movies or 6
movies? I think
movies?
it's 5.
Okay, that still feels like
insane.
a million.
Yeah. It's 4 books, and I think they do the split thing.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, I was reading the Wikipedia page, and Baller was like, not going to fucking split this into 2.
Well, I mean, the thing about this movie is that I would say, again, the middle gets a little soggy in the sense that there's a lot of like reckoning that has to happen. And in my mind, it's very hard to imagine a way to bifurcate this story and not have one very weird, mostly emotional rumination movie and one crazy. So I think the fact that they got this done in less than 2.5 hours is kind of an astonishment.
Great work, Baller.
Yeah, the Big B.
Yeah, he's going to do Mouse Guard next.
I'm actually unfamiliar with that series.
It's I think it's books about mice.
I mean, I would hope so, I guess.
I'm not going to guess about what they're guarding, but I'm assuming.
Can I make a guess?
Sure.
Big old piece of cheese.
Cheese.
Big old piece of cheese.
They love that cheese.
Yeah.
What did mice eat? Did mice exist before people?
Mice eat like a lot of shit.
They don't.
Eat wheat and grain. They eat
Just
cardboard.
cheese.
Just a big old stinky cheese.
Yeah. So what did they do? Do you think we invented mice?
Yes, with our minds.
I mean, we do have a huge cheese overproduction problem.
That's the thing?
Oh yeah, we have
Too much cheese.
Wait, you should look into this. As a vegan, I'm very happy to hear that my actions are actually doing nothing for the world because we just keep making the cheese.
Right.
Even though people are buying it less, we just keep making it and putting it in a giant storage facility.
I like the enthusiasm of the dairy industry. Like, they'll come back around. Any old day now. They'll come get the cheese.
Who gives a shit? And if we don't, we made those mice with our brains.
Ka-ching.
We'll feed it to the mice.
Okay, a couple callbacks in this movie.
Yeah.
One, Tommy Tom flips off. He gives the bird to Littlefinger again.
Again, after
He
jumping.
did in the second movie.
Right? That was the... Wait, no.
Who remembers? He flips him off twice.
Who
It's
gives a
great.
shit?
And also, he's like, you missed, did I? He turns the tables no Littlefinger. I like that
But
a
different
lot.
than giving him the finger.
Exactly.
He
Two
turned
different things.
2 fingers, but slightly different. Actually, very different.
Turned 2 fingers?
Well, you said he gave him
turned
the
the
finger.
tables.
You said he turned the fingers.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Honestly, it's late.
You're thinking about little fingers and middle fingers.
A lot of fingers.
Understandable.
Oh, and then remember earlier when Gally was like, we can just cut off Teresa's finger.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was
give a
fucking
shit.
amazing.
Yeah.
Gally, I actually really liked Gally in both movies that he appeared in, and I'm really happy that they turned him into a. Maybe he turns that way into a book, but in the first book, he's like just this dumb bully character, and it was nice that even in the first movie, he was like, he wasn't crazy. He just like he's like, hey, we shouldn't maybe trust this dude that just showed up and now everything's all fucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool that he came back and he turned out to be a really great guy.
But again, for his own reasons. He doesn't like, Tommy, you were right the whole time. He's got his own thing. And that's like, I think a lot of bravery. I think a lesser movie would have a very convenient, like, I was wrong to doubt you. But he doesn't give anyone
wrong
that.
to kill your chubby friend. Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch. Click here to kill Chuck. Okay, so
click?
I have to give a little Greiver report.
Ooh, please.
Greiver report coming in now. Greiver. Are there Grievers in this movie? There sure are.
Yeah.
Minho, in the middle of his mind torture conducted by Teresa to stimulate antibody cell production, is back in the glade, which is sick. Where like he wakes up, he's like, "No, I'm back in the glade."
Yeah.
And he like wakes up again. He's in like a horrible concrete underground.
Why do you think, sorry to interrupt, but why do you think they didn't start the movie that way? Because the first movie started with Thomas coming out of the box, actually into the glade. Second
Right.
movie starts coming out of the box into a dream glade. You think it would have been cool if Mino had started this one? Coming
I
into
think
his own glade? And
that's
then
actually a good
it cuts to
question.
him being boarded onto a train? Maybe they started it that way and they're like, no, let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, that's a really good point. That would have been a really interesting way to start the movie.
Yeah.
That being said, my I guess if I was going to defend the choices of Wes Ball and the team behind the Maze Runner series, I think it's the third movie. It's the finale. I think given that it's a little longer and given that there's a lot to cover, I think you want to give people a little thing to snack on at the top.
Yep.
Get into the more emotional stuff. Then again, end really big with like massive apocalyptic fires and explosions and gun battles.
Just to go back in another direction, I felt like there was a very long period of time between the first car heist and the heist in the hospital.
Yeah.
Probably like an hour.
That's what I'm saying. The middle of this movie certainly gets into a lot of the like setting the table for the finale in a way that I'm going to say it's totally earned. I loved the series.
Yeah.
It is a little thicker in the middle.
I'm just saying, picture this.
Okay.
Starts with Mino
Uh-huh.
running in a glade. We're like, whoa, is he actually back in a maze? Fighting Grievers. Like, that could have been a really exciting opening too, and it would have mirrored the previous 2 movies really nicely. Then you have some exposition of what Mino's doing. They're doing antibody research, blah, 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 blah. You don't really see anyone else. You're like, where's everybody else? Gets loaded onto a train. And then we have to wait less between the train thing and the next heist. Maybe it would have paced better.
Interesting. You know what? Honestly, I totally hear that. I get that.
Hollywood? Hollyweird? You
Sure.
listening to this shit?
Yeah.
Get me in the room.
Right.
Get me in to punch up some scripts. I'm not going to write them all, but I'll get in there and tell you maybe a couple ideas.
Couple ideas. One,
How much is that worth? $100?
We got to remake The Death Cure.
$200?
I think The Death Cure is the worst name of the 3.
Absolutely, because we were thinking, oh my god, we're maze heads. Oh my god,
We've been
we're
scorched.
scorch heads. We've been
Yeah,
scorched.
right.
What are we? We're cured.
We've been death cured.
We've been cured.
Yeah.
We saw the light.
I think it's such a rare movie where the ending is so conditional. I can't get over that, which I really enjoy.
What
Like,
do you mean?
it's sort of like they ended on Empire Strikes Back, kind of, where like they're sort of it's sort of okay for a minute, but like the world collapsed.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not like they saved the world by a long shot.
No.
Not even close.
No, they literally let it go. They
And
were like,
fucked
who
off.
gives a shit? We
Yeah.
don't have the power to do anything about this. We're just gonna save the people that we want and get the fuck out of here
Yeah.
and go make tents.
And read Newt's sad letter.
Yeah, and where do you think you're still shopping at Old Navy at the end?
This movie, I feel like things got a little crustier in general. People looked, well, I mean, like in the city. Okay, so let's get back to the world building here for a minute, because I think it's worth talking about. So at this point, we see like they're, back out like in their port side base where Vince is fixing up a ship to go take the immune off to the safe haven. And then we see like the sort of like crappy countryside as they work their way into the city. Then we see the shitty like fucked up outskirts of the city where all like the mutants and poor people live. And then we sort of like actually finally see where Wicked's home base is. We see the fancy, it kind of reminded me of Day of the Dead, the Romero movie.
Yeah.
Not one of his best, but the sort of the city on the hill in the middle of the apocalypse thing.
I'm gonna just interrupt to give you my hot take. I know he might be the king of the zombie movie, but I don't like any of his movies. I think he's a bad filmmaker, really bad writer, and doesn't actually understand how to make. Maybe Dawn of the Dead is like, or no, sorry, Night of the Living Dead is like his best, but everything gets worse and worse and worse.
The original cut of Dawn of the Dead I actually like a lot. I think the original bummer ending is sick.
Night of the Living Dead?
No,
Which
Dawn
one?
of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
I think Dawn of the
That
Dead
one's
has
pretty
a
good
few
too.
great lines in
It's
it.
very boring though.
Well, but that's the thing. Like I think it's a technology thing where like
Maybe.
it's very hard to do compelling horror action in that time when he had a micro budget and people literally lumbering around. Like I have to give him some credit because the ideas became so like those. He
of course,
conceptualized-
he's the man. He's the godfather.
But I hear you in the sense that he gets to those budgets and he gets to those bigger
and he makes it
technological
worse,
possibilities.
like way worse. Diary of the Dead was like
I didn't see that. That's the found footage
fuck.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
But even like make Dawn of the Dead 80 minutes.
No, hold on. Day of the Dead, that's on the military base. I like some stuff in that a lot. Like Biff the zombie. I like the smart zombie with the gun. He's cool. I'm thinking Land of the Dead. Sorry, with Dennis
God.
Hopper.
Yeah.
Not a great movie, but I like the idea that we sort of get in this where it's like there's this
Yeah.
sort of shining city of the elite above like the scummy like wasteland below.
Yeah. Were they all cranks down there? Why are they so eloquent?
Well, at one point, Walter Goggins' character refers to them as being cranks.
Yeah.
I think they're in that weird interstitial area of like, we're sick, but not dead yet.
So they're like not going to get attacked.
Right. Or I think like they have their own defenses and shit. They clearly have enough weaponry.
Okay. I really like that in zombie movies, like the unexplained reason why zombies never attack their own kind. Sometimes they try it, sometimes they don't. I just like it. I'm not one of those. I don't need to be explained why like once you've turned, they never get attacked again. They're allowed to turn. I think it's great. Good storytelling.
Well, I think it's about eliminating narrative inconveniences that
Right.
add nothing to it.
Exactly.
Right.
And then people are like, well, why? Like in 28 Days Later, like people like for some reason want to complain about one of the greatest movies ever made. It's like, why don't the infected eat each other? It's like, who fucking gives a shit? They don't. Okay.
Plus, you seen them? You want to eat that? Nuh-uh.
Yeah, gross.
But a juicy living pink human? Yum, yum, yum. Well, on the inside.
Oh, of course.
Though you've seen the insides of the fucking infected. It's all gray and gooey.
Ugh, it's gross.
But
in
human
there.
people on inside, pink and tasty. Much, much, much. Yeah.
I would do it. I would turn just to eat the pink insides.
Well, remember, like, you watch, like, maybe The Sword and the Stone, or you read Asterix and Obelix, and they just make meat and a bone look so amazing.
So good.
And, like, I think, like, stuck in my head forever is the scene in Sword of the Stone where the shitty brother just, like,
Oh, yeah.
strips the bone clear.
Oh, my God.
And, like, who the fuck doesn't want to do that? So when you, like, imagine being a zombie, like, the world's my fucking buffet.
Oyster. Well, no, I guess you're right. Buffet.
Yeah, if I see a people, I can just...
Yeah, the opposite of an oyster.
In
I
a
guess
way.
the same similar sound.
Emotionally, aren't we all soft inside with a rough exterior
Especially cancers.
that people have to pry open
Like
and
me.
suck out? Actually,
Yeah.
I don't get why people suck oysters. You need to chew them.
Well, no, you don't even suck. You let it drop into your mouth.
Right.
And then you chew them.
Right. If you're putting that much effort into slurping an oyster, you're doing it weird.
Yeah, you need a
If
lesson.
it's properly shucked,
Can
it
I?
shouldn't
Can I?
be-
I'm gonna say something on air. I eat oysters.
What? Someone call the papers.
You're the papers.
Vegan eats oysters. I'm not the papers. You take that back now.
I mean, you're a kind of papers.
Don't compare us to papers.
Papers. That's so funny.
Ugh.
Papers.
The circle jerk of newspapers who just love anything involving newspapers. It is the worst.
Wait, people love newspapers?
Newspapers love newspapers. There's been a spate of stories recently, and I'll try to keep this political, where newspapers have been like, "There's still a newspaper here," or whatever, and it's like,
Wait, really?
It drives
good.
me crazy.
That's good shit. So you're radio.
All the way, baby, through and through.
You have a haircut for radio.
Thank you. I've been getting that a lot this week.
I know. You got to get a haircut, man.
I got a haircut.
Wait, I thought you said you didn't. Oh no, that's you said you got a bad one.
Right, I was unhappy with it.
Yeah.
I had a
You know what?
barber.
I'm unhappy with it too.
I don't actually mind it that much. Like it's functional. Like it doesn't like
Sure,
stop me
it
from
keeps
doing
your
anything.
hair on your head.
A haircut is the opposite of that.
No, but it keeps the remaining hair on your head.
No, I think the fact that it's already there keeps it there.
Well, what would you say is a non-functional haircut?
I think if you get a haircut that like it's bothering me, it's itchy, it's getting in my eyes, it's not like
Okay.
This like there's nothing in the way of my general function.
So it allows you to function.
If I was a maze runner, this would not get in the way of my maze running.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You wouldn't be a maze runner because you'd be dead. We already talked about this.
Right, we're way too old for
Way
maze
too
running.
old for maze
right.
running.
Like we were talking about earlier, like, you know, if they were like, okay, you've got to run through the maze, run through the tunnel, fight a Greiver, run through a bunch of armed guards, fight your way onto a helicopter, jump off the hell. It's like, are you fucking nuts?
I would literally just run at a knife.
Yeah, I just kill me.
Stakes. I would just
What
jump
am I
on
gonna
stakes.
do? Yeah. Also, then like the back to backness of all of their exploits, I love, and I know it's a movie, but I love that like at 29, I'm like, if I did one of these days, that next day I am watching TV with an ice pack,
Sure.
and like they are, man. So this movie,
They're young. Can we talk about the sex of this movie?
yeah, again,
Because that's something I think is
a
really
very
important.
sexless. It's very emotional and not very sexual, which I
Right.
admire.
And like I do admire that they didn't end it with him and Brenda getting together.
Right.
I honestly don't really know why they made out in this one.
Well, use names.
Teresa and
Tom finally kiss, but I think
But like these things finally, it's like I guess maybe in the screenwriter's head they were like setting up this. Their relationship was so fucking twisted. The kiss just felt like really satisfying. Like should have been satisfying. It wasn't like a weird kiss. It didn't make me feel weird. It was just like felt unearned.
I totally disagree with this one. I think
Yeah, I'd
that,
love
like,
to hear your thoughts.
There's this like long simmering tension between them.
Yeah.
And this last moment, they share some kind of confirmation of that simmeringness.
I really liked when their noses were touching.
That was
And,
a
like,
beautiful shot.
Yeah, that was great. And I was like, that could have been really cool to like let their mouths linger and then just retract rather than giving us this like Hollywood stereotypical kiss without really making it feel like.
I think you're not doing justice to it. This was like a tortured, sad moment. It's not like a triumphant spinning the camera around as the horns play. This was like a sad moment where they're like, this is to the thing that never was and barely was and never will be. And it's mournful. It's not a passionate, lusty kiss. It's like, it's a sad
It's just
moment.
sort of a sad moment where they.
I think that's actually a daring thing to present a conventional storytelling moment in a way that is deeply complicated.
Okay.
I think I agree with you that like at face value I get that reaction, but I think again meeting the movie halfway, I like that it's like they had something and this is the saddest possible ending to this whatever.
I think for me I needed maybe a flashback where they interacted. I just didn't feel much.
No.
Don't know me. Just hear me out.
There's no flashbacks in the movie at all.
There are. The first and second both have flashbacks to him remembering
They have
shit.
memories.
Yes, which is a flashback.
No, you're describing like a montage flashback.
No. That's I mean like a moment where he remembers them actually having a connection. Where like I can feel that there's something more than him being like, I hate Teresa, or like just this, like you sort of get the sense that he wants to be with her, but I feel like I needed a little pulse, a little something that would get me to believe that maybe they actually had a relationship before their memories were wiped or something.
But I guess the fact that they like so rigorously debate and discuss what's going on, and they really, this connection is so tortured and fascinating where they keep leaning into each other. And like, I think they do establish that pretty well. I do.
Okay. Maybe not a flashback, but
I
maybe
think
something.
I don't think that would add to the movie.
It might. I think I just needed something.
The other flashbacks are brought on by very specific conditions where they're like being tortured or having the experience of drugs or Greiver
they
juice
could
or whatever.
still do something.
just shoehorn in no, that wouldn't make any sense.
He hits his head so many times. Just
That's
make him
He gets
remember
whacked
something.
around. No, I don't agree with you on this one. I think that in that moment, I like that, like, again, this is a movie about a lot of ambiguity, and that kiss is full of ambiguity. And I don't think I want to be handheld through it. I want to be
No, I don't
what
need
did
to
they
be.
have?
Okay, yeah, you're right. But maybe another scene in the movie where I just feel like there's a lot of time where they're not really together, and then suddenly they're together. And I really like the moment where she's like, come back to me. Like the wording on that is really precise when she's like, you're the blood, you're the cure, come back to me. It's not like, let's make this cure. It's like, come back to me. And he has to be like, wow, I have to trust this person. I really like that. I just wish there was maybe one more scene where I got to like experience the pull of him and her trying to get back together.
But that's the thing. I don't want them to try to get back together. I want them to be like, we had something.
Yeah. But no, I want a scene where they are.
But the whole movie's been about the nature of their relationship. The whole series where it's like,
true.
So in my mind, it's like,
I think there was just a lot of time between. I don't think this movie spent a lot of time with what was going on. And I just need maybe one more reminder of her and him.
But that whole sequence builds up. That whole sequence is the end of them spending a lot of time together in the hospital.
Yeah. Sure.
So we want another scene in there?
I want one before. Yeah.
All right. I don't know where it would fit in there. This movie was
well,
pretty
I
jam-packed.
already rewrote the beginning, so maybe I could throw one in.
I'll give you kudos in the beginning.
One more $100, I will give you a brilliant idea.
No, I think they actually handled the kiss really perfectly. I can't imagine changing
That's just because you want to kiss somebody.
I don't want to boast, but I do kiss somebody. So,
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I think in my mind, like,
it.
the less the better with that, where it's like...
I agree. I don't want, like...
You want more, though.
I know, but I don't think less is... I think I need something.
He's been fascinated with her since the beginning
Absolutely.
of the first movie. They've acknowledged that they used to be friends and collaborators and maybe more than that. Like, I don't know. I think for over 3 movies, we get plenty. And especially watching them almost back to back to back, I'm a little surprised to hear we need more of that. I think the light touch in this, like, that is what works. And the little detail you mentioned a minute ago, there's still those granular moments of like, oh, like, this is interesting, the way that the depth of this connection, it soaks into all of their interactions.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Newt scene. The Newt scene was good.
The Newt scene was great.
When he was like, you just want to go back there to hang with your girlfriend. And he's like, no. And he's like, oh, I'm infected.
Right.
That's what it's really about. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. I'm all, you know me. I don't like to be explained things, but I do like to feel things. And I just feel like a lot of time went by between me. Like, I just don't think the first 2/3 of the movie, like, maybe except for that Newt conversation, didn't have much Teresa in it.
Well, no, we see her at work.
Yeah, but we don't see it like connected to Thomas.
But again, it's the third movie. I don't think if you've been watching the first 2 movies, that relationship is very established. That makes them come together and more climactic and more powerful.
Right. But so again, you either have to watch this all as one giant 9-hour movie experience, or you have to meet it as a movie unto itself. And like, just, I don't know. I don't care.
Well, I'm saying it's a series finale. So in my mind, like, I'm going to treat it like part 3.
I think you're right. I think it just wouldn't have been hard to put it in to the first third of this movie.
It would have been impossible, because at that point we actually see her, like, for the first time we see her clean, dressed nicely at work with
Patricia, if there was just
Clarkson,
a moment where she's cranking it to a little picture of Tommy.
There was no cranking it over the course of the series. I guess we
talked about it in the first one.
We wondered how much cranking was going on in the glade. Yeah, a frosted glade.
Yeah,
but there was
36, 40
sexually frustrated teens.
Boys.
Just like,
yeah, that would have been just a nightmare of cum.
I do like this movie was completely heterosexual at all times.
And that's another thing I want to talk about. Do you think that the all boys, like, I know this is stupid to even consider, but like, do you think there are all these different versions? Like, do you think, well, maybe homosexuality has an effect on the serum that we're going to produce?
There's like an all gay maze. There was a...
Well, they don't even know who's gay and who's not. Like, so let's throw all boys together and find out what happens sexually between them. I mean, and all girls. You have and then we have a co-ed one, like a mix.
You have to consider all the variables in trying to create a serum for a zombie virus. So, probably.
If I learned one thing from Dashner...
The great James Dashner.
The great James Dashner.
Me too.
He did say that who are they called again? The bad guys? Oh, Wicked. They really cared about variables.
Sure.
With a capital V. He capitalized everything important, so you could just like skim the page and find the capital words.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
He sounds like
writing.
a great writer.
Yeah, he's a good man.
I want to talk about Patricia Clarkson a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Her scenes with Littlefinger are great. I love their interactions. Like I think she's one of the most compelling villain characters I've seen in any movie, maybe, where it's like, again, we really, by the end of the movie, she's very compassionate in her way. For all the coldness you see in her, you do get her ultimate mission. And to see her finally give up on it in the finale was such a great, I truly did not see that coming.
That rules.
Where she's like, you know what? I was wrong.
This isn't working.
We ran out of time. It's over.
Yeah.
And then that choice is kind of what galvanizes Jansen to spin off into his own, like, well, okay, if this is done, it's Jansen in time. So like in a way like that, her decision is like a huge decision in the series.
Oh, it's so great.
And to see this like very Stonewall character from the first two movies be like, okay, we fucked up.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's a great, again, like why she's not really a villain. She's from the whole time she's been like compassionate towards her subjects. It's really just she feels like this is what she needs to do, and then she realizes that it was a waste of time. She didn't know what she was doing, and it's time to just give up.
And in a way, like that's her giving her own moral condemnation of her choices, where she's like, it's time to die.
Right. To stop doing this.
Right. And like, I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
We don't really, we're not tasked with some sort of elaborate, she just sort of like, she's like, guys, we're done.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. That she's this internal world going on as a comparatively smaller character to the main characters as a villain. We don't see her come to this conclusion. I just think it's an interesting choice that like you don't see very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it. It's actually, can I throw in another meets? We've
been doing it the whole series. Let's do it.
Meets Monsters Incorporated. I feel like she's the main bad guy of Monsters Incorporated, where basically they have this whole system of like.
You can say Monsters Inc. You know that's what everyone calls it.
You're right. I don't know why I did that.
You're very formal there with the
Monsters Incorporated. Well, that's really because he says here at Monsters Incorporated we strive for the best. That's, I don't know. That's
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's a movie about a man who like is really concerned about his town. And the way he tries to save it is by being cruel and extracting pain and suffering from others in order to save what he believes. Like he thinks that's the best way to do it. He's not inherently a bad monster. He's just, this is what he thinks is right. And then they learn that you don't need to torture children to get screams out of them. Laughter is 1,000,000 times more powerful. And this, honestly, it's like the same thing. Thomas just turns out to be the laughter that they could have extracted all along, but instead they're so blinded by what they feel is right that they just go ahead and do what they just ignore the problems what they're doing because they think it's worth it.
Or also like in the graphic novel version of V for Vendetta, the movie is dog shit. And honestly, the comic is a real mixed bag. But I love that in the comic, the guy that the big brother man at the big desk loves fascism. He genuinely believes that this is a system that works. He's not a sadist or a psychopath. He's like, no, this is order and we need to control the society to get order and security and safety. I passionately believe that. It is my strongly held ideological belief.
Yeah.
And I think in a world where we're often given characters villains who are just sort of like cruel, like again, hey, you know what? Let's talk about Star Wars for a minute.
Sure.
In Star Wars,
you know me.
There's no great explanation for unless I'm missing something, the Empire never clearly articulates, we're doing this for a reason, for a purpose, to unite people, to have security. Like,
and that's sort of what I'm talking. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Okay, we get it.
You don't get an explanation.
Shut the fuck up. So in those movies, we don't get that. I think that is again another archetypal villain thing. Where like Sauron doesn't have any like plan for the world. He's just like, I should control the world.
And by controlling, that was a good, awesome power.
Right. And that's what makes Dr. Evil so fun. Is that Dr. Evil is just like his outcomes are so stupid.
Right. He's making fun of all that shit.
So to see a movie where people are like, this is complicated. We're doing the best we can. I want to see that out of a villain because again, just a blank slate of.
Oh, I don't even consider her to be a villain.
Right.
She's she's a good guy.
Right.
She cares deeply about the state of the world.
She's a good guy who tortures children.
Yes.
For good.
For good.
Yeah.
I mean, the children can take it.
It seems like it. They can do anything. Do you think that there's like the immune are also sort of superhuman? I sort of picked up on the thread of that where I'm like, it seems like they're also kind of like.
I think so. I think as I even noticed what now Dylan is, I mean, he did suffer a car accident, But Mino and Dylan both are running a little slower in this movie.
I mean, they're getting
and
older.
they're only like 24. Like, can you imagine?
So talk about the car accident. We alluded to this.
Yeah, I
a couple
didn't
episodes
look anything
ago.
up. But I guess Dylan was in a car accident. And they had to just delay screening until like Baller didn't. He's like, no, we're waiting for Dylan to get better.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Dylan O'Brien, I have to say, exponentially better and better in this series.
Oh, yeah.
He's great in these movies.
And I don't know if that was a choice or he just got more experience as an actor, but like I can understand why just like the first movie he's like, what the fuck is going on? And then he sort of learns what he needs to take vengeance against and what's important to him, and like he starts to gain more of a character. So he's either a great actor and he knew to play it dumb in the first one, or he grew with experience as his character grew with experience. Both are lovely, I think.
They are lovely, aren't they? Yes. But also, like, you also see that like that hunger for whatever is driving him. It is the sort of corrosive thing that drives him to greater peril. His friends risk more and more, and even in the end of the movie, he's not satisfied. And like, I think that's interesting. The fact that he's like never satisfied, and that it's not like it's almost never congratulatory, other than Newt's masturbatory note about the wonders of Thomas.
Yeah, which
kind of struck me as maybe a bit much. They could have cut that.
They should have rewritten it because I like the note. I like that Thomas or Newt had like a nice little final word because he had the best haircut. And
he did,
And he was the cutest boy.
And in a movie of great eyebrows, maybe
Gally takes the cake.
Well, Gallies are more like just cartoonish. And
they're insane.
They're
like,
nuts.
Are they real?
They're played up. The effect of him with the bleached hair and the glasses in Bandersnatch makes him look like an animaniac. And in this, like he's like swole, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, but I think you're right that like Thomas is the greenie, and for some reason I get it. Like when you see someone that's like, I met Liv Tyler, I get that she's a superhuman, and I would follow her somewhere, not in a bad way,
in a respectful like I'm a part of your mission way.
Yeah, exactly. Not like follow her home
or to her car.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I can sort of get why Newt would be like, oh, this guy's powerful. I understand why I would, but like. His note was a little bit like literally he's known him for 6 months, and I get it, but like a lot's going on. But like
it's little
like
schmaltzy.
You deserve to have a happy life. I love you.
You're a good boy.
You're a
very, very good boy.
I feel like he could have written a shorter letter that was just like, I have these fears about turning into this, and like I think about Chuck. Like that was a moment that was like really touching. Like I think about the people that are dead. And it's like, I forget what he said.
He says, I say the name every night like a prayer.
Like a prayer.
And that was beautiful. And
yeah.
again,
and like, just cut the rest of that thing. Like, you deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need Newt telling me that. The story
I
can tell
get
me that.
that.
But like, yeah, like Newt's final thoughts were really beautiful if they'd been just sort of cut up.
But also like, I want Thomas to feel conflicted about the choices he made.
Yeah, exactly.
He should.
And I think he does.
Which
like,
is, again, that last moment shows you that
Teresa,
he's not satisfied.
Yeah. And he does miss Teresa, and he realized that Teresa deserves to be on this pillar. She wasn't bad. She was good.
Yeah. Again, I just think this is the kind of like, we shouldn't teach the books of a Me Too guy in schools because fuck James Dashner.
No, and they're bad books.
But I think like, I'm happy living in a world where there is a teen series that really addresses the fact that being right is not important at the end of the day. Because like it's not important.
I like that.
It's not like Thomas was particularly right about anything.
No. And I think that's really good. I think we all, I mean, myself included, I really enjoy being right. I get a nice feeling when I'm validated. Because I think a lot of literature is about like being good and right and like doing the right thing. And I think this is a good series about like, you're going to face a lot of hard shit in your life, and maybe you should stop and like actually consider what you're doing. And not just just do whatever you feel is good.
Well, we hit on this earlier, but at the end, the redemption of the whole series is a storm of bad plans and stupid ideas and failures that all come together in the same in the same moment at the end of the movie. No, bless you, really? You raised in the barn?
I don't bless you.
Really?
No.
I'm going to get back to that later. The end of the movie, it's a confluence of like disasters that leads to the ending. No one wins, really.
No, the city falls apart.
People survive.
Yeah.
But and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think it's even cooler that we don't get more. And that's what ultimately this podcast is about. Is like,
leave them wanting more is the best possible finish for anything. And it feels like it's been impossible in this series.
Right.
Because like, Even with Goldmember, you're like, man, like the idea of really going through 4 is.
I don't want that. And we had ideas that would make it fun. Like,
but even then, it's like
just get rid of
most of the stuff.
Get rid of it all, and like somehow.
If they did like a micro budget straight to Blu-ray, like
thank you. I loved it. I gave you a PS3 today.
Thank you.
And
you got it to work. Yeah.
And we got it to work. But now you're saying Blu-ray instead of DVD.
I know. If they did like a micro budget, like Austin Powers 4, that was totally divorced from or just like a whole new branch, sure, whatever.
Reboot?
Sure, fine. Yeah. The gritty Nolan reboot, the post 9/11 Austin Powers. But with this, it's like the vision was grand the whole time. The ending is surprisingly satisfying. And yeah, I don't know. I this is really a kind of a game changer in the podcast, I think.
Why do you think people don't like it?
I think it emerged at a time where the market was flooded with high concept sci-fi series and franchises and TV shows and a lot of teen dystopia.
It's true.
I think this is a movie where if you had to explain what this is about, you would sound like a 12-year-old.
Right.
And like I'm not trying to dismiss 12-year-olds, but I think to a large population who's like buying this shit, you're like, okay, these teens are trapped in a maze and they escape the maze after they fight the Grievers, and then they got to go through the Scorch trials, and people are like, that sounds fucking like up. That sounds stupid.
But when you watch Handmaid's Tale, it's like this shit actually sucks, and it's not fun to watch, and it's not all that interesting, and it's not all that smart, and somehow that's like considered high art and cool, and like we should all be watching Handmaid's Tale when I think we got ourselves a little maze to run through,
and maybe a trial to Scorch
and a death to cure. Sure.
Okay, let me say this. You were talking earlier about how
Star Wars.
You were, but well, sort of, yeah. How like nothing is original. Everything we do is like a pastiche or drawing on a theme of the human experience. Mm-hmm. The thing with living in this day and age is that, especially with movies and television shows at this point, we've done these pastiches so many times that it's possible to actually meld together a pretty finely honed version of these pastiches. And I think if the worst thing you can say about The Maze Runner is that it's an excellent genre movie series. That's like, in my mind, the worst thing. You could dismiss it, I'm doing air quotes, as like a genre exercise. That's as low as I'll go with this.
Exercises are amazing.
Right.
They're important.
For a coming of age story and like a teen dystopian and a sci-fi like horror, this is an excellent version of all of that.
I take back what I said. I think about the kiss. I think in my mind, I still don't know if I want the kiss, but I do think there was enough. I think the conversation about Thomas potentially betraying everyone just to see Teresa again, and that final moment where she's like, come back to me. I think those are really perfect moments that like salute and like really make that journey a part of, like, the whole story is basically about Teresa. It's a big part of the story. And I do think, now that we're talking about
it's the sadness cherry on the sundae. Yeah. And in the spirit of your conciliatory nature and admitting that I was right, I just want to look back and say, you were still wrong to bring up Star Wars earlier.
I agree with that too.
Great.
Can I tell you about my dream?
Oh yeah, please.
I had a Maze Runner dream last night.
Yeah.
It sucks that I don't remember any of it except for the part afterward, which I'm going to tell you about. But I do remember you and me. So you were in the dream too, and we were both Maze Runners, and we survived.
That's awesome.
We did a lot of running. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, it's only like 7. I went back to sleep. And then I had this really weird dream where you and I were walking around a carnival and a bunch of sailors were playing, you know that game where you like have a little ring on a string and you're trying to get it on a hook?
Yeah.
They were playing that game, but it was like 100 feet away and on a giant string. There was a bunch of sailors in like little old sailor garb. And then we're like, can we play? And they're like, no. And then they just played, and it was like, and they threw the ring and it flew off and it turned into dust.
Wow.
Yeah, and you and I were in it.
That's beautiful.
It was so cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was a great dream.
What a beautiful way to end our Maze Runner series.
Yeah, so it was
your carnival dream.
It was a Maze Runner. I did have a Maze Runner dream, and that was sort of the end of it.
I do feel like at the end of the series, there's one thing we haven't talked about that I think there should be a PSA attached to these movies. And if you think I'm wrong or being too protective of the youth, let me know.
Okay.
To the young people listening to this and the old people.
Do you think young people should be listening to this?
Definitely not.
Okay.
So
first, don't listen
The
anymore.
inane ramblings of two assholes are for other assholes to enjoy. Wait till you get to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to stretch. And in these movies, no one stretches. And I'm telling you, Josh, you can't maze run if you're not stretching.
Josh, can I please just chime in?
Okay.
we've already established that I think once you reach stretching age, you're no longer Maze Runner age. Because did you
young
ever
people
need
should
to
stretch?
I mean, sort of, but like you
I
don't
ran
need
track.
to.
We both ran track. I did stretch.
That's a bit of a. That's not quite accurate. I did one.
Oh, yeah, the truth comes out.
Semester, one season.
I mean, I spent a summer on the track team at my Jewish summer camp. So I'm not saying I was
that's
fucking
not even real.
chariots of fire. It was real. Our
summer camp track. Who are you meeting against?
Other Jewish summer camps.
That's pretty cool.
Our coach, I'm putting that in, and there are more parentheticals here, but
parenthetical air quotes.
Exactly. He would like bike around playing the Braveheart theme on the boombox.
That's sick.
It was sick.
Yeah, I joined for one season. I made a lot of fun jokes. Like when people were like, "Oh, you do track? What do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I do the short jump. I do the 100-meter jog," because I was bad at it.
Oh yeah.
And I did the long jump, and I did like a 400-meter relay with 4 other guys. So it was like 4 laps of 100 meters, I think. But anyway, I sucked at it. It was boring. And then the final meet, someone stole my shoes, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this shit.
Here's another thing, kids. You gotta run in sneakers. I don't know what the fuck they're wearing in the Maze Runner.
Oh, that's true.
They run around in boots.
They run in
a lot,
boots,
which is gonna fuck your shit up.
But again, not really the right crowd.
Yeah.
Not only, so I'm glad they're not listening because you're talking to an older generation of Maze Runners.
It's true.
Oh my
God.
God.
We all emotionally running a maze?
Can we maybe think like 20 to 100 years from now when they reboot the Maze Runner series? It's about like 40-year-olds. And they're like the kids are running experiments on
it'll be about like 80-year-olds who are now genetically capable of living forever, being like, remember the 2010s when things were good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are
good. Old people.
So final thoughts here on the Maze Runner series. Charles, we've really gone through a journey here. We're really eerily satisfied with the finale. I think back to the end of our Star Trek series where we were straight up bummed.
Yeah, like it sucked. And it's so nice to sit and like make the visit. I mean, the visit's always fun. It's always fun to see you, but like
we had ice cream.
We had bowls. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
But like basically it was nice to like go on a journey through a world and see how they built this world. And we've said it before, but like I think the biggest thing for me is each movie took place in a totally different setting with a totally different cinematic artist behind what it looked like. And it was really great to like have 3 separate chunks of one giant story where you can see the whole story as it is, but they really break it up into 3 totally different experiences. Like it works each as its own movie, and it works as a giant movie. And I'm excited for Die Hard.
It's going to be great. When we do Die Hard for our next series, people are going to love it. It's an iconic classic series. We've been putting it off for too long.
I think it's time.
It's time.
We were talking about like, we don't want to do violent shit. We don't want but I think this would be a nice carryover from Maze Runner into Die Hard, where we have also weird assholes doing shit that's not cool.
Well, and also, if you think about it, it's funny that as they get older in the series, they resort to more gun violence as it goes on. So finally, we can watch the ultimate American, love letter to gun violence, and it's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome.
So tune in next time. Once again, when will it end? The movie series podcast, where we're definitely going to do Die Hard. So yippee-ki-yay, my fellow Maze Runners.
Oh, that was good. I thought you were going to say motherfucker.
No, I changed it to the thing we just did.
Okay.
Yeah.